Hello and welcome to the BookTube channel, Jack in the Book Stack, where I talk about a wide variety of book genres and the bookish lifestyle. And this is one of my favorite videos to make every year. This is the video where I tell you the goals I have for my BookTube channel in 2024, some things that you can expect to see, and also the 24 books that I am going to try to read in the year 2024. I'm coming to you with the display behind me of all the books that I own that I read in the year 2023. I made a similar list, 23 books to read in 2023, and I read all but one. That is how seriously I take my lists and my goals and my planning. Let's start with some of my other bookish goals and BookTube goals, and then I'll go into the 24 books to read in 2024. So first and foremost, this isn't really reading related, but it is bookish related. I have a new hobby that I want to pick up that I'm super excited about. I really want to get into book rebinding. I have seen all the reels and videos of people taking old paperback books and reimagining them in super creative ways, and like their hardcovers with beautiful ribbon bookmarks and all sorts of really pretty images, and I really want to try that. So I've been acquiring all the equipment and materials that I need for the past several months. Like on Black Friday, I bought a Cricut machine to do some of the vinyl cover decorations, and I'm really excited. So I'm planning on doing some kind of BookTube content around this, but I'm gonna have to kind of see how it goes. I will try at least my first bookbinding in January, but I think this will really mess with the algorithm because my channel is not a DIY or craft channel. So I don't know if it would like tank Jack in the Book Stack to do a bookbinding video. I mean, I could always talk about the book a little bit, review it, some of my favorite things about it, so it's still relative to you guys. But I don't know how that's gonna go. Maybe I'll do shorts or something else, but I really do want to document the bookbinding journey because I think it'll be so much fun to see the progress that I make from January to December. And this is actually a great segue to the second goal that I have for 2024. It can be really hard on BookTube not to let the algorithm influence what you want to do, what you want to read. And that's something I always try to keep in the forefront of my mind because I don't want BookTube to remove the joy of reading for me, but it can be really hard when I'm so excited about a book and I make a really creative vlog, for example, and then it gets really low views or not a lot of comments or engagement. It can really bring down the creative aspect of things. So my second goal is to really remind myself to just make videos about things I'm passionate about. And the focus of every single video will still be books. I might be doing other things, and that's why I say the bookish lifestyle, because there's other things going on in my life, but I love pairing the book that I'm reading with the activities going on or just showing what's going on. I'm very like nostalgic and sentimental, so I love looking back on those videos in particular. So I just need to remember that I'm making videos for myself and other book lovers, not the algorithm, although that can be really hard to remember. The third reading goal I have is actually a carryover of something that I tried to focus on in 2023, and that is to attempt to read all the books in a series as close together as possible. And so for trilogies in particular, this means attempting to read them all within the same month. I think this really helps me keep all the details straight and not get confused with what's going on, but I'm also not going to stress about it. I need to pair books with my mood. And so sometimes I need a little space between books, and especially if they're really large, that, you know, I'm gonna set myself up for success. So I'm not gonna force myself to read them all close together if I'm not feeling it, but it is nice to just have it for awareness. The fourth reading goal I have is on the list because in 2023, I was shocked at some of the nonfiction books that I read that had a very significant impact on me. And so going into 2024, I really want to try to read one nonfiction a month. Or in other words, I want to read 12. I want to read 12 nonfiction books this year. So that is my goal. And I actually already have a really long TBR of the nonfiction books that have piqued my interest. So I'm really excited to dive into those. The last reading goal I have before we dive into the 24 books is that I want to read 6 classics this year. And I'll try to do like a reading vlog and annotation guide for these books because I think it's really interesting to look at the themes and tag different things that are special that make that book a classic. I like to read these alongside Spark Notes, so they do take me a little bit longer to read, but it's such an immersive experience and it makes it, I get so much out of it. It's such an in-depth experience to read it with Spark Notes, learn more about the symbolism, the themes, set the context of maybe why that book was so innovative for the times. So that is another goal I have for the year. All right, let's talk about the 24 books that I want to read in 2024. Now, I broke these into categories based on genre. So let's start with fantasy. Let's get the first one out of the way because I don't think this is a very unique pick. I think a lot of fantasy readers are going to be doing the same thing as me. But I really want to read the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. And that will not be an easy task because these books are super, super long. But the conclusion to this installment of Stormlight Archives, book number 5, is publishing in December. So I want to read all of these to prepare for that new release and then hopefully read that in December as well. Book 1 is The Way of Kings, and side note, fun fact, but rebinding this series is the goal I'm working towards in 2024 because I hate the covers of these so much. I think the artwork is like very masculine, like 90s. Like it took me so long to buy these books because I think they're hideous. So I'm very much looking forward to getting some practice in and then coming up with something super cool and creative for these editions. But I digress. That's a different goal. I really hope I'm not setting myself up for failure on this one because I am counting these books as 4 entries in my list of 24, which can be dangerous if I'm committing to reading a whole series, but like what if I hate book 1, right? So I'm a little bit nervous about that. It's a risk that I'm taking. However, in 2023, I really solidified the fact that Brandon Sanderson is one of my favorite authors of all time. So I really, really need to read this series. And it is highly, highly unlikely that I will hate it and DNF it. But I do know that it is a commitment because these are long books, very epic in nature. So it will be a journey. And of course, I will document it all for you in, I'm thinking, individual reading vlogs per book and adding them to my playlist of my Brandon Sanderson reading vlogs. The next entry on my 24 in 24 list is another trilogy, and that is the Tawny Man trilogy, written by Robin Hobb and kicking things off with Fool's Errand. Of course, this is another risk that I'm taking, adding 3 books to this list from one series, because what happens if I hate book 1? But that's probably unlikely, and these are part of the larger Realm of the Elderlings series, which I want to read in its entirety, so I'm pretty confident that I will get through these books. I've read 2 other trilogies in the Realm of the Elderlings, and so I'm familiar with Robin Hobb's writing style, and this is actually a story I'm really excited to get to, so I have very high hopes. And maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment picking these really beefy books for my 24 in 24 list, but the next book that I want to read this year is Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This fantasy standalone book with sapphic romance and dragons has been on my radar for a long time, but due to the size of it, I have really procrastinated it until this year. This is the time, and I'm actually going to read this in the month of January, I swear, so stay tuned for a reading vlog on that. The final fantasy book on this list is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. I have this checked out from Kindle Unlimited, so it is ready to go when I am, but I'm really, really excited. This story has been getting rave reviews on BookTube. I am seeing it on a lot of people's lists for the best books that they read in 2023, which is the year that this was released. I just haven't gotten time to get around to it yet, and I was wondering if I should read Sword of Kagan first. Still up for debate if that matters. But this is the book that I really want to check out. It has a mysterious school setting. I think there's strong feminism vibes involved. There is this aspect of studying and research, which I love. I love a good bookworm in books. So I am so excited to get to this one and see what all the hype is about. Next, let's move to the thriller and horror category. The first book in this category that I want to read this year is Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. This is a thriller horror book that I've heard great things about, and this is on my TBR because I really want to do a reading vlog centered around cults. I think cults are so fascinating. It's really the psychology aspect of it, like how people can be manipulated into joining a cult, giving up their identity, and just doing weird things. So I hope that this captures that vibes, and hopefully the reading vlog will as well. The next horror book that I want to read this year is Blackwater by Michael McDowell. This was recommended by the BookTube channel Katrina Brown, who says this horror book is one of her favorite books of all time. It's a compilation of like 5 or 6 novels. It's like a family saga with horror. She said it was super emotional, she cried, but it also was very scary. I think there's supernatural elements. I'm excited to check this one out. I really need to get caught up with some backlist horror. So the next book that I want to read in the year is Gerald's Game by Stephen King. I pretty much just know what's on the inside flap of this book, which is a couple goes for a romantic getaway to a secluded cabin, and they want to get frisky with some handcuffs. And so he secures her to the bed so they can get hot and heavy, and then he like has a heart attack and he's gone, and she's stuck there screaming, but nobody can hear her. But then some stuff starts happening. Maybe she's not so alone as she thought. The next book that I'm super anxious to check out is Brother by Anya Alburn. I have this one checked out from Kindle Unlimited. I am really excited for this twisted horror book because the summary makes it look like it is about cannibalism, and I thought that'd be a really, really fun, gross, weird, quirky theme for a reading vlog. So this is really there to signify my goal of doing a reading vlog around cannibalism. Next up, let's talk about some romance and fantasy romance books that I want to read this year. First on the list, I have got to see what the hype is about for From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I own 4 books in this series, so I feel like I need to commit to at least book 1 to see if the series is one that I want to continue with. I feel like From Blood and Ash is such a cornerstone of fantasy romance that I have to experience it before I continue reading too much more in the genre. I know I'm late to the party, but I swear in 2024 I will read Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. This is another series that has been super hyped on all the Bookish social media, and it has been personally recommended to me as one that has a strong female main character that hopefully won't drive me crazy. I am really trying to find a fantasy romance book or series that has a female main character that I can enjoy, because a lot of times I find them kind of like self-centered and annoying. So I have high hopes for this one. And I don't know what I'm doing to myself here, but the next book on this list is A False Start by Elsie Silver. This is book 5 in her Gold Rush Ranch series, which means I have to read the other 4 books before I can get to this one. But her Chestnut Springs series was some of my favorite romance books in 2023, so I'm confident that I like her writing style, her characters, her chemistry between her romantic leads, so I would really like to read all the books this year. Next up, I really want to see what the hype is about for The Book of Azrael by Amber Nicole. I've really seen great reviews about this book, but I don't know too much about it. I just have the impression it's a little bit darker, and so I think that would be a nice complement to some of the contemporary romance books that I have on the list. It's also available on Kindle Unlimited, so it's free for me to check it out. The last romance book on my TBR is Midnight Ruin by Katie Robert. This is the newest installment in the Dark Olympus series. It comes out in January, so hopefully I can pick it up relatively soon. I really want to see how this story progresses. This is one of my favorite spicy dark romance series, and I'm really intrigued what's going on with the political elements of this world. This is the series that's inspired by Greek mythology, but no fantasy. The Greek gods are actually political figures, but it is still super spicy, and I enjoy this series, so can't wait to see what happens next. Next, let's go to the classics category. I already mentioned that one of my goals this year is to read 6 classics. So here are the 6 that I have identified that I would love to try. In May, I want to do a nautical theme. So naturally, I picked 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. This sounds like a really fun seafaring adventure story that will be perfect for the theme that month. And yes, I know I'm planning super far ahead, but you'll see why in May. The next classic on the list is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. I don't think I've read anything by Thomas Hardy yet, and I really want to experience his writing, and this was the book I chose. The classic that I'm probably most excited to read this year is Don Quixote by Cervantes. I have heard that this has a great character and actually a lot of humor, so I'm really excited to try this one out. I want to do a dedicated reading vlog for this. I want to read it parallel with Spark Notes, as I mentioned. I want to talk about my annotations, the themes, the symbolism, characters, humor, all of that in detail. So excited to read this one. I don't have it scheduled yet, but I know I will get to it this year. The next 3 classics I actually included in my January TBR video because I wanted to see, based on the comments, which one I should start the year off with. At the time of filming this video, I don't know which one won, but I do know that I want to read all 3 of these this year. On my list to read in 2024 is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This one seems to have great gothic vibes and a mysterious mansion setting. So excited to try out this Austen novel. Also on the list of classics is Villette by Charlotte Bronte. I actually don't see too many people talking about this Bronte novel, but apparently it is very critically acclaimed, so I'll have to read it and report back to you guys in a dedicated reading vlog how it compares. And finally, the most controversial classic novel on this list is Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. I am curious what was so scandalous about this book that the author had to go to court, and I think it was banned for a while. I really want to compare this story to present day standards and see what was so controversial. That is it for my 2024 BookTube goals and the 24 books I want to read in 2024. Please comment down below with a book that you are really excited to read this year. What is top of your mind? Highest priority, you have to get to it this year. I'm excited to see what y'all say in the comments down below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this video, and happy reading to you in 2024.